Hi, this is Alex Behrens with Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters in Roselle. I'm here today to talk about our May 2024 coffee, a Catuai varietal from Panama. Check it out. So for everyone who's unfamiliar, reminder of what the Club Coffee program is. At Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters, we bring in a club members only coffee every month, roast it one of three different ways, give people a chance to choose which of those three roast styles that they would prefer. We also send out a whole bunch of information, background notes, and really cool deeper dive information about the coffee with the Club Coffee email every month. And we also do this YouTube video for everyone who is interested and maybe casually curious about what the club is all about. Oftentimes we do coffees with a theme. Last month and this month we have the exact same coffee in stock from the same farm, just two different varietals. Last month was the Typica strain and this month is a Catuai strain. So we're taking this chance to highlight the effect of the two different varietals on the flavors and the roast process and all the things that go along with that to stark contrast. So this month, we tried to make the coffee roast in the exact same way. So I took the exact same steps and shot for the same roast time and processing steps from last month to this month. And we got two different effects on the roast style. So I'm going to kind of change the order of discussion in this video. Normally I talk about the roast kind of in the last step of the videos, but this month I'm going to kind of start with that up front. Because this month the roast actually moved a lot faster than the Typica strain in last month's coffee. So this month was a little bit tougher. I set out to roast it in the exact same way to try to actually duplicate the same exact steps in terms of how the heat and the times and the airflow moved through the roaster. But we saw that the coffee actually moved a lot faster, so it forced a different approach in the way that the heat was applied and the amount of air and when that air was applied in the course of the roast. And I thought this was a different quirk, and I even noticed in the chaff collector when I cleaned that out after the end of the roast that there's a lot more chaff on this coffee than on the Typica strain. So the Catuai strains, not uncommon for them to roast different than the Typica, of course. The size and shape and the dimensions of the beans are a little bit different, which means that it will take on heat and progress through the roast a little bit different as well. So it was interesting to watch that contrast between the two roast styles. And in an effort to kind of make this as consistent as possible from month to month, I got really close in the roast profiles for both months. So I'm doing my best to remove the way the coffee is roasted as a variable in the overall outcome of this coffee. So once again, we have our light, medium, and dark this month. And I'm once again making the request that everyone avoids trying the dark roast, because a lot of times what dark roast profiles do is that you end up tasting more of the way the coffee is roasted rather than the coffee itself. So I think that this month is the month that once again members should focus on the light and medium. And to reiterate from last month, I do feel that if you went with the light or the medium last month, you should choose the same thing this month. So try not to change the choice that you make this month. I really want to give folks a chance to see what the different roast levels, the same roast level across two different strains do for the way that the coffee tastes when you take it home. So this month on the light roast side, strong contrast to last month in both the complexity and the overall weight of this coffee. So the light roasts, the smell and the taste of both the light and the medium roast were actually pretty far apart. So this coffee overall compared to the Typica strain had a complexity to it that I would normally have expected to see out of an African coffee. And when I say complexity, sometimes people are not quite sure what to make of that. And complexity can mean, at the base, in most simplest way, you taste something a little bit different every time you take a cup or you take a sip of the cup. And furthermore, you taste something a little bit different as the cup changes temperature. And I saw that pretty evident in this month's roast. So the light roast had a kind of that brown sugar graham cracker tints. The last month, the Typica strain had the graham cracker feel as well. Had more of a creamy consistency to it than last month. Last month had a little bit of that, but not to the same level that we saw in the light roast in the Catuai strain this month. Much more of a lemony lime kind of tint to this one as well on the light roast side. There was a little bit of an acidic nature to this too. So I hope that everyone that chose the light roast last month is okay with a little bit of a bite. That acidity kind of grew as the coffee cooled a little bit further, which is not uncommon and is definitely something I would expect to see more out of an African coffee. Overall, it was a decently bodied coffee too. More so than I would expect out of a light roast. Panamanian coffees will generally be a little bit fuller at whatever roast level you're shooting for, but this one definitely drank a little bit bigger than the light roast did. I think just a pleasant light roast overall, and I'm really interested in seeing what people think of this one, especially the African coffee fans out there. On the medium roast side, this one is really where we kind of increased that complexity. So it had a curious kind of licorice tint to it this month. Same kind of nutty, spicy tones that I would have expected out of something complex. We didn't see those types of flavors in the Typica strain last month. So we didn't get that licorice, we didn't get that spice. We got more of like the nutty, brown sugar, creamy consistency last month, and we just didn't see that in the medium roast. So I think of the 3 roast styles, the medium roast is the most different from the Typica strain that we saw last month. And I think that that's one of the most interesting outcomes of this overall experience that people will get a chance to see for themselves. Tiny bit of chocolatey, not a super strong chocolate coffee this time on the medium roast side. And like the light roast, it did get more tart, more sharp as it cooled down. So if you're a person with a sensitive stomach tendency and you want to avoid the kind of tart feel, definitely try to drink this coffee hot. One curious quirk to this one too, very uncommon in my experience for Central American coffee. There was a little bit of an earthy quality to it that I would have expected to see more out of a coffee from Asia Pacific, your Indonesias, your Indias, things of that nature. So I think this one has a kind of exotic feel to it in the medium roast that for all those medium roast choosers last month, which is the bulk of our folks, I think this is going to be a really fun ride to see how this is really a stark contrast to those kind of creamy brown sugar, richer sweet types of flavors that we saw in the medium roast last month. On the dark roast side, this, as a reminder, was the roast that I was discouraging people from trying. And I think that that was still the right decision to make. It's a fine dark roast. It has some of the hints that you normally see out of a Panamanian coffee, the kind of richer, fuller bodied taste without being sharp or tart or too strong. Just kind of bland though. I don't really know what the reason for that was. It did have kind of a marshmallowy, creamy butter kind of tint to it, but I don't think this is the one to try again. There was 1 or 2 people that chose for dark roast last month, and I'm still going to continue to try to convince those folks to give something different a shot, even if they went with a dark roast or wanted to get a dark roast for the first time as a first option last month. I'm going to kind of once again steer people away from that, although I know there's going to be one person out there that will definitely still want to go for that. So this was a fun coffee and fun experiment overall. Just to recap a little bit, those 2 strains, the Typica strain is the one that has been around for a lot longer, a little bit harder to grow. That's the one that you'll see kind of in the coffee roots. And the Catuai strains are the ones that were kind of a cross between a Robusta coffee and some other varietals, and are much higher yield, easier to grow for farmers, and a lot faster. So there's definitely a consequence to this 2 different strains that's been interesting to watch the flavor contrast between these 2, and especially for me as the roaster to watch how it roasted and how that was much different too. So I'm really excited for everyone to give this one a shot and kind of do their best to compare to the overall sensibility and flavor profile from last month. And I will hope to see everyone for another great Club Coffee video next month. Take care.